Beautiful friends, beautiful souls, Satnam, welcome, hola. I hope you are all doing amazing on this beautiful day. Our planet isn't doing so amazing though. Our planet is literally on fire with fires happening, as you know, in Canada, but now we have them in Italy, the Greek islands of Rhodes, La Palmas, Spain, Portugal, Algeria, Africa, and all this while Beijing, China is flooded with historic storms, literally placing Tiananmen Square into a lake of water. Really interesting. At the same time, we have China and Russia doing risky war games off the coast of Alaska. Remember my past predictions and visions of Alaska and potential attacks, a potential future Pearl Harbor type event. Hopefully that's not the case. We're going to talk about that today. A glacier lake outburst brought major flooding to Alaska. Do you even ever hear of a glacier lake outburst? What exactly is it? What exactly does that mean? And could this actually be a sign of my past prediction about the warm-up of Antarctica causing major breaks in glaciers? Obviously, this glacier outburst was from warm temperatures. We'll read about that today in a little bit. As I predicted, more banks are closing their doors. But even what's more concerning is the fact that some banks have secretly implemented the Chinese social credit score system, just as Spirit warned us would happen. Wait until you hear the latest banks in the BS with them closing people's bank accounts due to their political views, allegedly. Is this banking system going to be the really true future dictator of our planet, implementing the mark of the beast? I have no doubt that that's the case. Banks are freezing accounts while in Australia, they are actually pushing their cashless banking system. They just dumped over $1 billion in cash notes while limiting bank withdrawals to certain areas of certain cities. So is Australia going to be successful in their cashless system, in their cashless dictatorship? I think so. And who's going to follow in their footsteps? Implementing also the social credit score system. Who's next? We're going to talk about that. Along with Taiwan, who is reporting missing ships or warships surrounding the country while the war in Europe is about to spread, unfortunately. So what is coming for both Europe and Taiwan? We're going to talk about that today. Another thing is my microphone broke. I'm using a supplement microphone, so I apologize if the sound's off. Once I get my new microphone, everything will be good again. So we have two extremely powerful and historic eclipses coming. Something I want to talk to you about today because it's really important that on October 14th, the first one coming diagonally across North America, mainly over the United States, followed by the next one that comes in April 8th of 2024. And that eclipse will also cross diagonally across the United States on the opposite side, literally creating a large X right over North America, and again, mainly the center of the United States. So, now we have things like Twitter becoming X, or we have Planet X. And so what exactly could all this mean? Is there any coincidences in any of this? And what's going to happen with this eclipse? What does it signify? Trudeau is getting divorced. Biden's health continues to decline, while Mitch McConnell freezes like a robot, and a new war, sadly, is lingering over the continent of Africa. While Americans rack up a record amount of $1 trillion in credit card debt, as India bans all exports on rice. Remember, in past, we talked about shortages, and we talked about one of them big shortages coming is rice. So now this clearly shows that that's inevitable. Means that India cut off all their exports. Smart of them to keep it for their own people. What's next? What does the future hold, and how do current events align with predictions and prophecy, if they do at all, over the past week? This, along with my latest visions of a new conflict, double attacks, a new vision of future weather events, and so much more today on episode number 77, the magical sevens of Tuesday's Tittle Tea Time. And I'm Tittle, Joseph Tittel, that is, Spiritman JT, and I welcome you again with infinite love and gratitude. I want to take a moment to thank all the supporters who make this free content possible through your support, whether you are a member of the community down below, especially my members on Subscribestar Awaken Your Spirit community, and all those that send their contributions through the mail and so forth. I couldn't do this without you, and I am forever grateful. Down below, you'll also find a link to my newsletter, and the latest newsletter, which is from the first of the month, of course, with upcoming fall classes, what it is you may want to venture into, whether it's past lives, connecting with your spirit guides, intuitive abilities, all that coming up in my fall classes. Check that all out below. So we stepped into the pre-shadow of the Mercury retrograde in Virgo, about a week ago, less than a week ago. And then 2 weeks away from today, we go directly into that retrograde with Mercury. And then 3 weeks from now, we have the huge energy shift, that wave, tsunami wave of energy that's going to sweep over our planet. And every time we have an energy shift, big things happen. The biggest things happen throughout the year during those time cycles. All this is coming while we're currently actually receiving today, 8/8, magical day, August 8th. Well, on this side of the planet, some it's August 9th, but doesn't matter. The Lionsgate codes are being activated, and they're activated through this month. So even though that powerful day's today, but it actually started weeks ago. These codes that come flying in universally, whether you believe it or not, it's true. And these codes always do things to help us experience an entire new level of awakening. Triggered by, and that new level awakening, Spirit says, is going to be triggered by some incoming X-flares from our sun coming up, likely hitting in September, but maybe as soon as late August. I'm going to say probably right around that full moon energy on the 30th. The August full moon on the 30th actually marks off the beginning of this tsunami wave of energy that's going to sweep over us, and it's a 16-day long one. It's a long one. Usually they're 2 weeks, but this one, two more days of it. 16 days, it goes from the full moon to the new moon. So we'll be in that through the whole first couple weeks of September. And therefore, I want to warn you all that it'll be around that same time that we are going to witness massive, record-breaking storm systems, earthquakes, and likely the next La Palma volcanic eruption, causing major issues that are going to affect agriculture and even travel restrictions. I had visions of that in the past, and I feel like that time's approaching, and I feel like it's this year, and there's 2 points where I believe that'll happen. The end of this month into September during that energy shift, and believe it or not, we have a fourth, which is unusual. It's usually 3 a year, Mercury retrograde and energy shift that bangs off the rest of the year at the very end of December. Interesting times we are in, indeed, without a doubt. We're in interesting times, but sadly, for many people, it's also scary times, especially when it comes to wildfires and weather. So let's start off with the weather today and the massive floods that are happening across the wildfires, not floods, but also floods. Floods in Brazil, Beijing, China, but also these massive wildfires. I don't quite recall all my past predictions on wildfires. I know I had them, but I don't recall. So you can please remind me in the comments down below. Also check out my past hurricane and weather prediction video. I should go back and look at those notes actually, because I would expect those things are happening right about now. But again, we do know that we knew ahead of time that this would be a year with record amount of wildfires. I do remember saying that in January. And we are only just over the hump, halfway period of the year. We still got almost 5 full months of this year left. We know about the horrific fires that are happening in Canada, and now they jumped across the globe, and we're seeing these in other places, such as I said it in the beginning. I'll tell you again in a minute. But we see all these places burning, and this is actually in turn going to have effects, at least they tell us, on our planet getting warmer. Think about the heat that's coming off of that and going out into our atmosphere. And it's certainly going to be those massive global wildfires that are warming things up even more. And I assure you that this is going to end up leading to my past prediction of global lockdowns that are going to be based on weather and climate events, not necessarily on a bug. It could be a combination of both, especially here in the United States when we get closer to the election season. But most of this is to instill enough fear into folks and get them to be afraid to leave their homes, while also some places being afraid to be in your home. So if it was climate or weather related and you were near, for example, a volcanic eruption and they lock you into your house, it might be scary to be in your house. It might be just as scary to be inside as outside. And I feel like that's what Spirit made me feel like they're kind of pushing. That's what the direction we're going in. Let's just put it that way. And that's not good. And remember, decades ago, the governments, including the United States, said back in the 1950s, that statement that I'm sure you probably watched clips of, when you control the weather, you control the world. That was back in the 50s. We already know they do that. We know for a fact, especially with recent whistleblowers talking about their earthquake-causing machine that they have in the Arctic or South Pole or wherever it is. So now we have the Greek islands of Rhodes, Portugal, Spain, Liberia, the Siberian forest, Canada, 2 new wildfires that just ignited in Colorado here in the United States. And remember my past warning for Australia, New Zealand, and other parts of South America. As wildfires die out here in the Northern Hemisphere in the next couple months, we're going to see new fires that begin to ignite in the Southern Hemisphere. Although current wildfires will unfortunately not be dying out anytime soon, especially the ones that are over in Europe, especially in England, or not England. I guess England's going to get fires too. That just rolled out of my mouth. Pay attention to things that come rolling off the tongue. It's coming from the spirits. So a warning for them. And actually, as I'm talking to you, I'm seeing a city fire. I'm seeing a whole area on fire, and I don't know if this is almost reminds me, and people aren't going to remember this, my friends in Philly will remember the whole, what was it called? Now I forget the name of it. When Mayor Good dropped that firebomb on top of the group, I can't remember what the name of that group is. It caused a whole city block fire. Oh God, I can't think of the name of that group. But anyway, burned the whole city block. And that's what Spirit keeps showing me, a vision of this whole city on fire. And I feel like this is ignited in some way. If I'm thinking of that old thing that happened in Philadelphia with Mayor Good dropping a firebomb, they said it wasn't, but it was. We know it was. I mean, come on, seriously. It was supposed to be a shocker bomb or something. The whole place went up in flames. So that would make me feel that if I'm getting this vision now while I'm talking to you, this has got to be something that's coming up. Coming up that's going to be a similar type of event. We're just going to have to sit back and see. Hopefully not, but this vision's coming to me now. It's not even in my notes, actually. I actually should add this to my notes. Spirit also gave me a very disturbing message that many of these fires were actually, as my vision just said, purposely ignited. By who? We can only assume. Perhaps as a part of this instillment of global fear. I'm going to put in my notes so I don't forget. City fire. Big fire. I don't know how it's happening. But if I think of that old thing that happened in Philadelphia, it's got to be similar to, again, something being dropped and igniting it from somehow or some way. Spirit also warns to pay close attention to where fires ignite, and that the common excuse of lightning being the cause is actually not going to be the case, or has not been the case. Pay attention to fires that start off far off in the center of wooded areas that are only accessible by planes or, in these cases, drones. Drones that hide extremely high up in the atmosphere before swooping down to commit these horrific evil acts, according to Spirit and my visions today. This was observed in the past. Some of you will recall. I'm pretty sure it was Dutch Synth's channel that caught this on video, and this was a couple years ago. And his evidence, of course, was completely erased and deleted, and it wasn't by him. Spirit says that they will be caught again, and in the future it'll be more clear. Who is they? I do not know. but they will be caught in the future. We already know that they do cloud seeding, right? We know about cloud seeding. They even talk about it and brag about it. They did it, I forget where they did it in the past year, and it caused major floods. It backfired on them. But they do cloud seeding to make it rain. They again, this is weather control that they admit that they do already. So I'm saying this. Why do they not utilize this technology and technique of cloud seeding to battle wildfires? I believe the answer to this question is pretty obvious, and I think you'll know the answer to that question pretty obviously, because they simply don't want to. Spirit also shows me visions of huge storms over burnt forest areas that bring about massive flooding. So that was an interesting vision today, because I saw massive floods. It almost looked like waterfalls coming off the side of mountains. I had visions of torrential rain causing burnt mountainsides to literally peel away like you were peeling an orange. This would make sense to Nostradamus saying mountains crumble to the sea. Although, of course, I do believe that Nostradamus was seeing future events, not this particular event and vision that I had, but similar. And he said mountains crumbling to the sea. And I believe this is actually coming up with massive quakes that'll hit the same way in the same time, just like the Hopi natives' prophecy of the blue Kachina and the red Kachina. When that fills our skies, that's when Nostradamus' prediction will come into fruition. So therefore, that's not related to my vision of these mountainsides peeling away like a piece of fruit. Wildfires, they're saying now, and how they affect our ozone layer. Ozone. Let's look at this. Modern wildfires and their effect on the ozone layer. The ozone layer is a precious thing can protect the earth. Well, we know all that. Let's get past that. The effect of wildfires. That's what we want to hear. The largest wildfires burn with such heat and intensity that they create huge plumes of smoke that can reach immense heights, even lofting smoke particles and combustion byproducts into the stratosphere. It is a simple result of the fact that hot gases tend to rise up and wildfires create plenty of those. New research has shown that these compounds can actually change the composition of gases in the upper atmosphere and potentially even destroy ozone in this atmospheric layer, according to scientists. Now, I remember back in the day, the big hole in the ozone layer. I remember hearing about it when I was in high school. And now that, years later or decades later, they said they fixed it by banning, aerosol spray cans and so forth. So it makes you wonder, nowadays, again, we never know what's truth from fiction nowadays. It's kind of crazy. Remember the message that I channeled from Mother Earth way back years ago? I think I lived back east, and when I'll try to look for it and get a link up here if I remember to do so. Or you can remind me in the chat room and I'll get a link to it. But you may also recall in that message from Mother Earth, she said that she would hit places where evil hides and resides. I touched base on this sometime within the last month, maybe on last week's show, when Spirit reminded us of Mother Earth's message, that she again will hit places where evil hides and resides. So you may also recall my visions of huge typhoons hitting China. And I think that's in my weather prediction video. Check that out. But now, my visions weren't just China, but I saw massive typhoons like nothing I've seen before, or they've seen before. And my visions of those floods in China and even dams breaking from floodwaters. Now, I haven't heard of any of that occurring, but you know by now that China has been literally pounded by this massive typhoon with a storm typhoon that left all the streets looking like rivers and lakes, even Tiananmen Square. And at least 147 lives have been claimed. And now farmers in China claim that the weather is getting worse and worse. I mean, they're all claiming that, right? Doesn't matter where you are. But the Chinese farmers hit by floods say the weather is getting worse and worse. First, temperatures soared for weeks on end, baking. This website stinks. What is this website? NBC. First, temperatures soared for weeks on end, baking the Chinese capital in triple-digit numbers. A month later, flooding from Beijing's worst storm in 140 years killed at least 20 people in and around the city. Well, that's not the latest I heard was 147. So, and China doesn't tell us anything. They were actually hiding the stories. Like, there were people in China that had no idea that Beijing was underwater. Because they were basically filtering that story and not letting people know. I mean, not that that's a surprise. Summer in China so far has been a season of extremes, with the country lurching between stifling, unrelenting heat and heavy monsoonial rainfall. The Chinese Ministry of Emergency Management said on August 4th that 147 people were dead or missing because of natural disasters in July. Okay, so I got that mixed up. I knew the number was 147. Not that that's a real number, of course, but let us move on because I got some predictions revolved around that. A disturbing vision, actually, and a message from Spirit today that China is heading into a great famine as the CCP actually starves out their own people only to feed those within the CCP circle. Spirit says this will become more evident as China declares new wars in the future. A move that will starve out their own nation, followed by some disease outbreaks that are due to their famine and massive numbers of fatalities that they're not getting rid of, I guess, that causes some kind of breakouts of diseases. Fortunately, I don't feel like these breakouts are going to be something that's going to flow globally. I feel like it's more confined to China, but will likely sweep somehow or slightly into the country of India. And this is over the next few years. I don't feel like this is all right away, of course. It's going to take a little time, but that's what Spirit told me today. Remember my past prediction of mass die-offs? And people think that's happening because of, the thing. People are dropping dead or having heart attacks, and that's not quite it. People thought that prediction might have related to the whole pandemic, but it did not. And I actually said that after the pandemic, actually. I think that prediction goes back to early last year, the mass die-off of people. And as you know, it takes 2 to 3 years for many of my predictions to come into fruition. Not all of them, but some of them anyway. I've learned that I warned Taiwan in the past of a great shaking that's coming. And we can take this in two ways. We can take this first, of course, being a major earthquake hitting Taiwan, and of course another shaking that will hopefully not be a sudden attack on their country. Although Spirit gives me a strong feeling that attack on their country is inevitable as long as Xi Jinping is still the leader of China's CCP. Because that's his goal, and he's going to fulfill that goal. Only if he disappears and isn't the leader anymore is Taiwan somewhat safer. But I don't feel like that's going to be the case, unfortunately. And they're preparing. Remember I said in the past double attacks? I had a vision of double attacks, which again, for a military would be pretty stupid for one country to attack two different places. Like China, for example, to attack, but not if they got Russia in their hands. So Alaska is also dealing, going back to the weather anyway. I'll go back to the conflicts later on in the show. Alaska is also dealing with that severe flooding, and it's not from rain as we would assume it would be. It's actually from a recent Alaskan floods were from a glacier lake outburst. Have you ever heard of such a thing? A glacier lake outburst. I'll tell you what, though, you should have bottled up that darn water because I bet you that's some darn good water. It's probably likely the most amazing water glacier right out of the glacier lake. So it was... City officials in Juneau, Alaska, have issued an emergency declaration after a glacier lake outburst flood wreaks havoc near the city, where structures have been destroyed. The flooding is due to the break on Suicide Basin, the side basin on the Mendenhall Glacier, located about 12 miles north of Alaska's state capital. A glacier lake outburst flood occurs when a dam containing a glacial lake breaks. So that's a dam break, sort of. The flooding has destroyed several structures along the what is it called? Mendenhall River. Mendenhall. According to the National Weather Service, 2 homes have been lost and yada, yada, yada. A handful of other residents, including a condo building, had significant damage, and trees, debris, and everything else. Basically, it was like, according to this article, a dam breaking. A glacial water dam. That's kind of very fascinating and interesting if you ask me. I find that to be very fascinating. Never even heard of such a thing. I wonder if that aligns at all with my visions of dams breaking. I wonder if it's the same. I would have liked to, I didn't look. I should have looked for video. See if there's any video of this actually occurring. But interesting at that. Something I, like most, never heard of. Glacier Lake outburst. But I do assure you that we are going to be hearing more and more about events like this and other major events that are going to occur, especially when it comes to the Arctic waters in Antarctica, as Spirit warned us in the past. Did you hear the warning that came in late 2022 that the next pandemic would likely come from melting ice glaciers? Isn't that interesting? Remember, I said something about diseases or outbreaks coming from glaciers years ago. Somebody in the comments just reminded me of that. Thank you for that reminder. But according to this article from The Guardian, the next pandemic may come from melting glaciers, as new data claims. The next pandemic may not come from bats or birds. That just makes me laugh right there. But actually from melting ice, according to new data. Genetic analysts of soil and lake sediments from Lake Hazen, the largest high Arctic freshwater lake in the world, suggests that the risk of viral spillover, where a virus infects a new host for the first time, may be highly close to melting glaciers. The findings imply that the global temperatures rise owing the climate change. It becomes more likely that the viruses and bacteria locked up in the glaciers of permafrost could reawaken and infect local wildlife, particularly as they range. Without a doubt, friends, that even if it didn't happen, they're going to tell us it happened. But I do believe it's highly possible if we look at some of the past predictions and the things that Spirit has taught us. Spirit also confirms again today that will be the case. That will happen. Not that it'll be like 2020. It could be mild. It could be something small, but it's definitely something. But I was also told, Spirit told me, that it does not actually need to leave Antarctica. So whatever it is that gets loose, it doesn't need to leave Antarctica, is what Spirit was persistent in telling me today. And that is because the only way it could leave is if it's brought off the continent. Like somebody literally brings it off in some way or another. Whether it's an animal that's infected that they bring off, and that's what causes it. So it's not like it's drifting in the wind and over to us or someone else. Just as Spirit said. Antarctica, did you know, is recording the warmest winter. And the sea ice right now is at a record low of just 17%. Did you also know, I thought this was fascinating, that 70% of our planet's fresh waters are actually in Antarctica? 70%. They should bottle that up. I think they already do, actually. Floods are also hitting Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and we have not seen anything compared to what is to come in the near future, according to Team Spirit. Team Spirit, go. I had a vision of a wall water. And this wall water was coming from the ocean. So it's not a dam breaking, like my past vision of wall water that ended up being the dam in UKR. This was not a dam. My guess is this is either somewhere out in the Pacific or maybe even the Indian Ocean. It could actually be both. I'm going to tune in, of course, to Spirit for more information on this, hopefully before it occurs. That's another thing. As soon as I get my new microphone, because this microphone's debunked, I will do my channeling prediction video. And tomorrow, as a reminder, I have my Alien Agenda video premiering at 4:44 p.m. Pacific Time, 7:44 p.m. Eastern Time. You're not going to want to miss that. I put a lot of heart and soul into the clips and everything I got to show you in this video. People freaking out on airplanes, claiming they saw aliens and all kinds of other odd, cool stuff. And what the diversion is. What are they diverting our attention from? And that's all in tomorrow's video. Back to weather, Indonesia came to my mind, and it makes me feel that this wall water could potentially hit the Indonesian islands. Although this could be a separate warning to the Indonesians. I see evacuations and major floods. Whether this all comes from a massive typhoon or maybe a tsunami, I'm not clear. But at the same time, I saw evacuations also in Taiwan, Vietnam, and even parts of Japan, and even here in the United States on probably the East Coast down towards Florida or Texas, maybe even Louisiana. That's probably in my hurricane prediction video. It's probably hurricane related. Remember, I had a vision of two big storms coming together as a massive, which I didn't even know if it's possible, but it's going to be possible. Even if it's not possible, it's going to happen. We can hold in the light that it doesn't and they break apart, but I don't think that's going to be the case. And I feel like there's some, weather engineering going into this. Kind of like Hurricane Sandy, how it just blew into the coast suddenly when that just happened. Because they have methods to make things go where they want them to go, if you know what I mean. So anyway, evacuations in major places, and so I'll get more on this. Maybe it's time I got to go back and look at my last weather prediction video, the hurricane weather prediction, and see what I said in my notes to see what's come to pass. It might be time to do another weather video for the end of the year, for the last part of the year. So I'll have to consider that. So not like we don't have enough to be concerned with right now already, but now we have also toxic algae, red algae, going viral, basically everywhere. And remember that the Bible does state that the waters will turn to blood, and people can take that in many ways, but that can also be related to the waters becoming too warm and developing that red algae, which would be, again, compared to the waters turning blood red, as the Bible states. We've been seeing it for a few years, but now there's a big CDC warning, a report from the U.S. Centers of Disease Control and Prevention that found more people and animals getting sick from toxic algae that forms in bodies of water across the United States. And again, if it's happening here, it's happening wherever you may be too. It's happening, or it's going to happen. The report found that some animals, but no people, have actually died from the effects of toxic algae. Some 16 states have reported a total of 117 illnesses amongst people and at least 2,700 animal illnesses as a result of harmful algae blooms, HAB, events, according to this report. A vast majority, or 90% of toxic algae blooms occur in freshwater, namely in reservoirs, impoundments, and lakes, according to the CDC. Based on the 2021 data, some 368 harmful algae bloom events were reported, representing a major increase compared to previous years, as fewer than 250 HAB events are reported in 2020 and 2019. So that's kind of cray-cray, friends. That's kind of cray-cray. But I thought I'd share that with you. Another warning from Spirit and another vision that I had today. And this one is for those friends in Venice, Italy. In Venice, Italy, we all know about the water that surrounds Venice, Italy. I would love to go there, but I don't know if I'm going to get my chance before Venice, Italy ends up underwater, because my vision today showed waters rising all around Venice to a record-breaking level. And then Spirit showed me that this would have a huge effect on the infrastructure, causing many structures and buildings to be condemned. This will occur in close proximity to two other major weather events that occur around that area at the same time. One being a major earthquake hitting near Greece around the same time as a massive volcanic eruption. This time, I believe this volcanic eruption may be Vesuvius near Naples. Warning to our friends in Naples. I have a vision of a crack. This was really interesting. I had a vision of a crack, likely again from a small earthquake, maybe a large earthquake. I don't know. But this crack in the earth that I saw magma, lava, whatever, same thing, but not the same thing, coming out of the earth. In a wooded area. I felt like I was in a forest or in the woods somewhere. Because I saw this hot lava in the crack. I don't know if it's still magma in the crack, or I don't know, but you know what I mean. I see that seeping out and causing fires. And I felt like this occurs again after a small earthquake. I didn't feel like it was a huge earthquake. I'm not clear where this is going to occur. I had this vision actually about a week and a half ago. I forgot to include it in last week's show. We will soon witness also more massive earthquakes, although I do feel that the largest may occur around December, maybe even into early January. That would probably be during our last final energy shift of 2023. I had a vision today of myself on an island. I spelled island just with an I. Kind of funny. Island. Where everything began shaking. I'm on this island and everything starts shaking. And I see trees literally bending back and forth because it's shaking so violently. And then I saw people in this vision fleeing from the buildings, and I saw huge bricks falling from these structures, basically, the buildings beginning to crumble. It reminds me of the past quake that happened years back in Haiti. So I don't know if it's because it's Haiti, but it's going to be similar to that Haitian earthquake that happened years back. When the Clintons took all that money and only gave them a little tiny piece, like 1%, and kept the rest. Nobody knows what happened to the rest. Yeah, look into that. That's a sad case. And it's the Haitian people that tell you, we never got that money. Not that this is happening in Haiti, but it's definitely a similar event to Haiti. It could be Cuba. But there's also going to be I saw huge fundraising campaigns being formed to those affected by some type of major event. We saw that again with Haiti. This is when people like, Clinton Foundation come in and make tons of money. Your money. Not just them. There's others that do it, and some are legit, and some are not so legit. They are doing it for themselves and not really for the cause. It's sad, but it's true. It's the world we live in today. But I do see a music thing happening, which that goes to where it needs to go. Kind of reminds me almost like Live Aid, not quite, but if I think of Live Aid was back in the 80s, and that was happened in several places. It was over here in America and overseas in Europe. I forget where, England or somewhere like that. So it's probably a dual event. If I'm thinking of that, it's probably whenever these big fundraising campaigns are, it's dual events. And I think they could be separate. There could be two completely different hits that people are coming together to help and raise money. One from a massive earthquake and the other from a massive storm, such as a hurricane. One of these, if not both of them, are happening right here in the United States. I'm going to say one of them, and the other one's going to be maybe related to the vision of the island I had shaking violently. Sad but true. I hope this recording turns out today and my microphone isn't too messed up. Coming eclipses. Did you know that beginning on October 14th, we have a eclipse taking place? Not that that's unusual. And then we have another one on April 8th, 2024. This is very historic eclipses that's going to cross right across North America, both of them, which is basically going to create a perfect X over the United States. The first one in October starts down at the left towards Mexico, comes straight up through the end of California, straight up to Canada. And then the one that comes in April is the exact opposite side of the United States, coming up diagonally towards California, up into Canada, creating a perfect X over the United States, which I find very interesting. Is it a coincidence that Musk just changed Twitter to X? I mean, does that have something to do with it? I mean, probably not, but I just thought, coincidentally, this all just happened, and we're just finding out, not just finding out, but we know about these eclipses are coming. We also know about, of course, that Musk is completely obsessed by the letter X. And I talked about this last week because we also have Planet X, which is Nibiru, approaching our solar system, as predicted by the Hopi and the Lakota people. The Hopi call it the red star, blue star. The Lakota call it red star, blue star. My apologies. And we call it red Kachina and the blue Kachina. When the blue Kachina appears in the skies, soon after the red Kachina appears. That's going to be actually the next video when I get my microphone that I'll be working on along with my channeled predictions. I got lots of content coming your way. I just hope my microphone gets here soon. I didn't order a microphone yet, though. I'm going to do that tonight. So anybody got any good recommendations, don't be recommending no $400 microphone, though, please. Unless you're buying it for me. Just a good microphone. Not a lapel either. I'm going to use a regular microphone instead. These lapels never seem to work long. So going back to these events, because where was I? Oh yeah, so the Hopi and the Lakota and Planet X. So what does this mean exactly? As much as I hate to say it, my friends, with this X and these eclipses, it makes me feel like United States, or the way United States is now, is completely doomed. Makes me think of what the natives said, that the white man would come in and the United States would come in quickly and go just as quickly. And 300 years, I don't know, it's probably pretty quickly. Every major empire must eventually fall, and I feel like the fall of the United States, unfortunately, is coming. Unless we have some major miracle that happens, and I do believe in miracles, but it needs to happen immediately. And even then, it might not even matter, because these eclipses are showing us completely an X right over. Remember, X marks the spot, right? So meaning that the United States is going to change as we know it. I have no doubt that this is going to be the case. And I said it before that I would not at all be shocked. And I think I'm going to move out of country if this happens and DT becomes the next president. It would match my past video where I talked about those books from the 1800s and the early 1903, the last president. I hope that's not the case, but I kind of feel that way. I hope it shifts and changes. If you got a time machine, somebody needs to go back and knock off a few people. A whole bunch of people, actually. So, yeah. I think everything's going to change, though. The entire globe is going to change, not just America. And as much as people fear the evildoers' plan to totally enslave humanity completely, remember, Mother Earth is the one in control. Mother Earth is in control, and she is letting us know that now. And I feel that all of what we're seeing right now is all just a big Hollywood production, meant to just keep our attention away from the true facts and the things that are most important, and even more so to keep us away from learning about the prophecies left by many, including the Holy Bible, Nostradamus, and not even in the ancient hieroglyphics and everything. We've been warned. Even going back to ancient Sumeria that talks about the planet Nibiru, which again I will do a video on and give you more information on. I got really good information on that that I received recently, actually. So, yeah, we've been warned for hundreds of years of the impending dangers on our planet in the future, and those impending dangers is not even a danger. It's going to happen regardless of flip of our poles. And it's going to flip. It's already flipping. And then once it does the total flip, it's going to be 7 days before it realigns. And I believe it says something about that in the Holy Bible as well. And then once it realigns, after that 7 days, it'll be permanent until the next big shift, thousands of years from now. Let's talk about the economy and the dollar in the United States, which continues to collapse each and every day, and the whole economic collapse is on our doorsteps. A collapse that I still believe and insist is going to happen in 2024. I've been saying it for years, 2024, because 2024 is an 8 vibration. The 8 vibration is all about money, finances, and infinity, of course. And we know the elite and the evildoers use numbers and astrology and psychics themselves. And they are way more advanced with the knowledge and wisdom that they've kept from the rest of humanity for hundreds of years. And they know. So for them to implement a successful new currency, of course they would do it in an 8-year. Of course. And in order for them to do that, they got to collapse everything else first. That's what they're pushing. That's why all these things are happening, this conflict globally and so forth. Italy's now moving away from the dollar and heading into the ruble. As you know, I talked about, Russia raising flags all over Africa, which means they're going to be moving over to the ruble. And many more banks are closing their doors. Even more alarming is that some banks are now secretly initiating the Chinese global social credit system. And this is why the world should be really concerned right now. For this is going to lead, as we have been warned, to the future mark of the beast. Banks take the lead in the social credit score system. It's a very interesting article from Epic Times. In depth, banks take lead in establishing personal social credit system, critics charge. Large money center banks appear to be in the vanguard of a movement to build system of personal social credit scores. This week, the British bank Barclays became the latest, not the first, but the latest to be accused of shutting down customers' bank accounts for political or religious reasons. That followed revelations in April that Cots, a private bank owned in the UK by NatWest, was alleged to have closed the accounts of the publicized personal information of the conservative politician Nigel Farage, one of the foremost Brexit advocates and a supporter of the politics of former US President DT. Meanwhile, British banks aren't alone. Many say that the largest US financial institutions are in a lockstep. Remember Operation Lockstep, friends. Go look it up, read about it. That in lockstep with the UK banks in establishing political and social criteria for their customers and punishing those who do not comply. That is just, folks, that is a global dictatorship right there. Formed and launched by the big banking system. The Rothschilds and all the rest of them. The Rockefellers, all the rest. The Chases. So in Australia, at the same time, they're pushing for this cash-free system. They say $1 billion. It was probably more than that, as you know. Whatever they tell us, they're always lying about numbers. $1 billion in cash tender, and without notice, 4 big banks in Australia limited cash withdrawals to just $500. Now making several branches in Australia cash-free branches. A reminder of a vision that goes back going to physical banks. Remember, I said a long time ago that physical banks, and it might not have been that long, within the past 2 years maybe, that physical banks would cease to exist. That we would not have to go to a physical bank, that once all the banks complete their digital mark of the beast currency, they're going to close 90% of their branches. More money for them. They don't have to have a bank. They don't have to pay bank tellers. They don't have to do any of that anymore. That's what they're planning. It's all going to be digitalized and closing all the branches. And there's only going to be a few big banks that stand, limited big banks in big cities. That's it. Like, for example, like a big one bank branch in New York and another one in Los Angeles. Maybe one in between in the Midwest somewhere, like Chicago or something. I don't know. But just to give you an example or a metaphor. So our system is collapsing without a doubt, as you know. And as I've been telling you for the longest time, buy silver, gold as well, precious metals. The most important thing that you should have and always be looking to acquire is food, survival food, and anything you need. You're hit by a storm or all of a sudden our grid goes or what have you. Because it's coming one way or another, whether it's now, next year, or 20 years from now, it's definitely coming. It's better to be prepared than to be sorry. New global conflict now that China and Russia are taunting America right now by holding military drills right near the coast of Alaska. Remember in the past I had visions of some type of attack around in Alaska. Of course, this could be many different scenarios. It doesn't mean that Alaska is going to be attacked by China or Russia. I don't know what it means. I just remember that past prediction. And shoot, my computer's about to die. Hold on one second. Oh, shoot. Sorry. Sorry, friends. Sorry. Don't want to lose my computer. I'm actually videotaping on this computer. Hopefully it works out. I'm doing things differently. This is a better quality than doing it from my phone. I just need a better microphone. This microphone's not working well. Hopefully it worked well for this show. Next week I'll have a brand new one, no worries. So yeah, in the past, Alaska, I had visions of some type of attack. And again, attacks can come in all kinds of forms. It could be anything. It could be an inside attack. It could be an attack from somebody in Alaska on a power grid. I don't know. But I also thought of Pearl Harbor in the past. So all this while at the same time Taiwan and the Taiwanese are claiming that Chinese warships are surrounding their country. Now this was a little bit while ago, last month, so I don't know if that's still the case, but someone sent me this article. Taiwan reports a record number of Chinese warships in the waters around the island. A record 16 Chinese warships were spotted in the waters around Taiwan in a 24-hour period last week, the island's defense ministry reported, in what analysts say is the latest sign of an intimidation campaign against Taipei by China's ruling Communist Party. The People's Liberation Army Navy plan actively in the 24 hours ending at 6 a.m. local time Saturday, followed by exercises earlier last week that saw dozens of Chinese warplanes fly past the median line of the Taiwan Strait. Yeah, they are definitely bullies, definitely taunting, just like they're doing right now to the United States. And they're doing it with Russia, which is even more scarier. And they don't care because we have like the weakest president ever in history, the weakest administration ever in history, that aren't doing anything about anything except for diverting our attention from everything that we should be paying attention to. Why humanity's on the edge of like complete collapse, they don't want you to know. They tell you all the stuff that we shouldn't know. They're literally showing us, especially if mass media, we know about them, but they show us absolutely everything that we should not be paying attention to instead of what we should be paying attention to. Of course, that's how they work. It's kind of like a whole propaganda thing owned by the same people. Anyway, so yeah, Russia's also now not Russia, but the people of Africa are raising Russian flags all over the African continent as people are gathering together in protest, celebrating what they're calling their own freedom. I don't know if I think they're being tricked and deceived, just like everybody tricks and deceives those poor folks. But now, suddenly, the entire region has new agreements with Russia. Agreements that Russia certainly we know ain't going to keep. They're not going to keep it. Nobody keeps their word. They're in there just basically, that's their way of sabotaging the West. Russia's going in there to sabotage the West while taking advantage of the African people at the same time, making it look good for them at first until they get control and make it no longer good for them. Just like the rest have already done to them. It's been done to them by the United States. It's been done to them by China and goodness knows who else. So with all that, they already have protesters by the thousands flooding the streets of Africa, waving their Russian flags, celebrating what they believe is their new freedom. The unipolar world order is now crumbling faster than ever. Just look at Africa again, for example, which is shocking the world, especially the West and the United States, with what's happening in that country, with these people standing up for Western imperialism. Yeah, I can talk today. Russia's President Putin has made military deals and trade deals all across Africa, and protesters are raising Russian flags across the continent. No wonder the West is on high alert, sending weapons and troops to the border of Niger. Africa is on the brink of a revolution. Spirit reminded me that, remember the aid that was sent to the UKR and it all disappeared? All these weapons and all that were sent and they were intervened, allegedly, by parts of Africa. Now we know why. Were they really intervened or were they purposely put there? I think they were purposely put there without a doubt. And I see, unfortunately, new conflicts. Spirit shows me new conflict breaking out in parts of Africa. Bringing in about another proxy type of war. So let us all together hold in the light and pray for the continent of Africa, the African people, and really let us hold in the light and pray for our entire planet, to pray for peace and goodness to prevail. We have that power to make that happen together when we do it together. So the power of prayer, friends, the power of prayer, the power of the light. War is prominent in and around Niger as well, without a doubt. That's definitely, they're going to have major problems soon. There's also controversy over that pipeline that goes right directly through Africa, which is, if it's not already shut down, I think I read that one of the countries made sure it got shut down. And if that's not the case, it's going to be shut down according to Spirit. And remember my past prediction where I talked about more pipelines and gas lines being sabotaged. Now we can actually together narrow down where sabotage is happening. And it's that pipeline that goes through Africa, which is a very important pipeline that supplies Europe with fuel. And all of Europe is heading into dire times. And many parts of Europe will be heading back to the Stone Age as power is disrupted again and again, and their energies are disrupted. I've been warning places like Germany and all for a while, and maybe 2 years, because again, it takes 2 to 3 years for things to come into fruition. So that means 2024, a lot of things are going to be coming into fruition. Maybe even before this year even comes to a close. Definitely before this year comes to a close. I see some type of conflict igniting in, sadly, many places, beginning with Poland, Belarus, and problems igniting greatly for Israel as well. Israel just threatened to send Lebanon back to the Stone Ages, while they fail to show, while at the same time, the Israel people are taken to the streets protesting. They fail to show us that, though. And it seems like Israel's following in the bully footsteps of the United States. It really seems that way. Israel threatens to return Lebanon to the Stone Age in any war with Hezbollah. In Jerusalem, Israel threatened on Tuesday to return Lebanon to the Stone Age in any war against Hezbollah, following weeks of friction with the armed Iranian-backed group along with country's border. Do not make the mistake, we do not want war, but we are prepared to protect our civilians, our soldiers, and our sovereignty, Israel Defense Minister claims in a statement. Such rhetoric has been heard from both sides since the last Israel-Hezbollah war back in 2006. But this has become more poignant since the roadside bombing in Israel in March, which is blamed on, of course, the Hezbollah infiltrators. Spirit just said lies. Spirit says lies. Spirit's kind of funny. Let's see. We're at the top of the hour mark, so let me tell you in other news. Because again, I just did a prediction video on the 1st, lots of predictions on the 1st. Then I was here on the 2nd, or the 3rd, whatever date, last Tuesday. And then I got my channel prediction video coming likely next week. That's the plan. Maybe on Monday or Wednesday. I try to get a video to premiere on Mondays or Wednesdays. So this week we have today, of course, Tuesday, but then I have a premiere on tomorrow on the alien agenda. You're not going to want to miss that. That's a good one. Mitch O'Connell freeze. Did you see that? Poor man. And obviously he has some major health issues going on, and he's just old, even though some claim he's a robot. He's not a robot. He's just old. Soon Mitch is going to drop out of and vanish from sight completely, according to Spirit, probably within the next couple months, maybe around the same time as Biden and many others. Remember, I saw big things happening within the Senate and within the United States, big, huge stuff coming. And I would not be shocked at all if I would be shocked. I would be totally shocked if Mitch McConnell ends up lasting to 2025. If he does, then 2025 would be the year he passes. But I'm thinking, because that's his 4 personal year in numerology, and it's common for people to endure that in their 4 year. Right now he's in his 2. Doesn't mean he's not going to pass. Likely he is, and that could happen, by the end of this year. But I don't think so, because Spirit told me he was going to be in critical health on home care in the very near future, probably before the holidays even come in. And again, I'd be shocked to see if he lasted, beyond his next birthday, which is in January, I believe, if I remember correctly. Or no, maybe it's February. Remember I had talked about visions that reminded me of the Tupac incident that happened back in the 80s, I think that was, or early 90s. Somebody, being taken out, a rapper being taken out like Tupac. Interesting enough, you all informed me that a week after I said that, they reopened the Tupac case. So now I'm confused whether there's actually going to be another killing like that or whether it's because they opened up the Tupac case. Nope, Spirit just said, no, there's going to be another. Don't be surprised if it's in Vegas again, too. Okay. Nothing's going to happen out of the Tupac case, by the way. They're going to make alleged, but nothing's going to happen from that, unfortunately, is what Spirit just said. Remember I had that vision of the crane collapsing? My Lord, that happened in New York City a week ago. I forgot to mention that on last week's show. You all left comments below. I appreciate that. Thankfully, nobody was injured and nobody was hurt. And then poor New York City was just bombarded again this past weekend from some social media posts that caused people to come out of the woodworks for, free PlayStations or whatever this kid that posted. He's a social media star, I guess you could say, causing a frenzy. Well, that kid is going to pay, because New York is going to come after him to pay the bill for all the police and all that happened for being a little less than smart by doing that and attracting all those crowds of people. And I worry in general for the people of New York, because Spirit shows me that lots of events are going to hit New York City, including something that sets off major riots and protests. This will most likely be in 2024, but don't be surprised if it actually happens in September and October of this year. Perhaps connected to another George Floyd type of tragedy that unleashes violent, unhappy masses. So we hold New York in the light. And then I got that reminder from Spirit about the streets of New York being underwater. That's probably going to be related to that hurricane that I keep having visions of. Going back to the whole X going across the planet. Did you know, I didn't know that the definition of Nibiru, or Nibiru, everybody says it different, but the planet Nibiru that's going to come into our solar system, heading our way now, the definition of Nibiru is actually the crossing. Kind of interesting. The crossing, as we have this crossing occurring in the United States between October 14th or 18th till April of next year. Those 2 points. The crossing. I just thought that was interesting. I saw that somewhere. Another thing I thought was interesting that someone put in the comments is we were talking about Fox, and I forgot to finish that. That Fox came out that they match people's contributions in the company, which is a wonderful thing for a company to do. If you donate to something, they match it. But a lot of their matched donations were to the Church of Satan, which means that people within their company, of course, are members of that church. Whatever. But here's what I found was interesting. Fox, in numerology, if you take the letter F and the O and the X, they're all sixes. So therefore, Fox is 3 sixes. I thought that was I never thought of that until one of you mentioned it. Thanks for mentioning that, because I never thought of that. And you're right. It is 3 sixes in numerology. Kind of interesting. I don't know. I wasn't able to validate this, but someone told me that leprosy is now in Florida. I had visions of that years ago. People told me, no, that ain't going to happen. That's not possible. Well, I don't know if it is true, but if it is true, well, then it's very possible. Did you see that the James Webb Telescope found a question mark out in the solar system that they're trying to claim is a galaxy of some sort that's shaped exactly like a question mark? I wish I had it here to show you. Darn it. I forgot to bring that up. And we're past the hour. And I don't know how this video is going to process on my computer, so I don't want to go too long on this show today, because then I might have lost everything I just did. Did you see the train derailment in Pakistan that killed dozens? That's sad. Prayers to those people. I thought it was interesting that Jason Aldean is suing Whoopi Goldberg and The View. He filed a First Amendment lawsuit for $56 million against CMT as well. You go, Jason Aldean, you go. Because that video is just, I don't know what the hype is about people, making false claims against this video. That's just kind of fascinating. I think people, that's your woke people for you, your wokeness. Remember, we have that vibration, those light codes coming in. They're coming in from the universe, coming out from the Paul of the Sphinx in Egypt, going globally. And these light codes are like a sponge. You have to learn to absorb them like a sponge. And we do that through meditation. So make sure that you're meditating, especially over the next couple days. You can also meditate and visualize those light codes flowing in through the top of your head, through your crown chakra, your energy point at the top of your head, your pineal gland, which is shaped like a pine cone. That's why the Vatican has big statues of pine cones outside. They know exactly what it means. That's where the soul resides, within your pineal gland, top center of the brain. So interesting. So I want you to take advantage of these light codes that are coming in, absorb them. Let them come in through the top of your head. Feel the vibration. This is all coming in before our big energy shift, and we get all these other recalibrations of our energy and our DNA coming up at the end of this month into September, mainly in September. What else? I think that's pretty much it for today. I don't have anything else on my list. Oh, well, I do have this. Well, whistleblowers at Fox, we just talked about that. Now Mark Wahlberg. Marky Mark. Yo. Good vibrations. Marky Mark and Wahlberg, they're hating him in Hollywood now. Because, they have the whole writer's strike, and he's making, filming this documentary, and he's working with Mel Gibson, and they're doing this whole thing, of course, bringing out truth about the little ones and what they're doing to these little ones. And having them all caught up in traffic, if you know what I mean. More whistleblowers are coming out when it comes to Hollywood and Hollywood demons. I think I touched on that last week, but in case I forgot, more whistleblowers are coming out, and arrests all revolved around Hollywood demons, is what Spirit showed me last week. So I'm not sure if I got that in last week or not. Oh, there's another one I forgot from last week. I saw a vision of someone poisoning people's drinks. Poisoning someone's drink. So I couldn't figure out who it was. Maybe when I do my channeled predictions, maybe I'll get more information on that one, because I'm fascinated to see. It's got to be something big, and I don't think we're going to know that they're poisoned. So someone's going to be poisoned in the near future through their drink. So be careful what you drink. Just saying, you should be careful anyway, especially you ladies. Never take a drink from somebody in the bar, and when you're walking around the bar, always cup the top of your drink. Always hold your drink like that with your hand cupped over top of it, and never put your drink down. I've seen it many times. I've seen it in all clubs, but people, just got to be careful nowadays, especially now more than ever, especially your kids. Warn your kids, your college kids and all, and warn them, because you don't want them to end up caught in traffic like many do. And one other thing I'm going to leave you with is Spirit keeps warning to stock up for the winter months, which makes me expect that winter is going to be tough in some aspect or another, but that probably also has to do with the food shortages and such. I will be back again tomorrow with my Alien Agenda video. Be sure, if you're new here again, smash that subscribe, join this tribe for accurate truth, predictions, and prophecy. I thank you for your love and support, members of the community, those who put through Chat Cash and PayPal. I couldn't do this without you. I am forever grateful. I will be back again soon. Don't forget to recommend me a good microphone down below. Oh, wait, one other thing, too, before I go. I want to work on the next Q&A. I wanted to do it this week, but I want to gather good questions, so I'll probably do it next week, maybe Monday. So leave your questions in the comments, not in the chat room, but in the comments below. Leave your questions. And one question, please. If you ask me 5 questions, I'm going to ignore it. One question, and I'll try to get to as many. I'm going to take the best questions that I think are the best for future events and such, or whatever the questions are, and we'll do a Q&A next week. So until the next time, beautiful friends, it was great hanging out with you on this Tittle Tuesday. I remind you always to be bold, be true, be kind, be you, because you are friggin' amazing. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Namaste. Much love. Much love, friends. Much love.